What? Oh, there we are. And we're live on the Metal Lab. Today's just myself and Jordan today. Today it's
Hello.
myself and Jordan today. I'm on a roll already. Wow.
Boom.
So now we're going to be back every week, guys. Monday at 9 p.m. live. Of course, you can always catch the archive version on our YouTube channel at marriedwithclicks.com/marriedwithclicks.com. Wow. Amber, cut. That's going to be youtube.com/marriedwithclicks. Where you'll be able to catch our archive version. So this week, we have a lot of catching up to do with the show with regards to previews. There's been quite a few since the last episode of the Metal Lab, and they've been going nuts with Trinity War previews. A lot of cool stuff, a lot of neat stuff. Jordan, anything stand out to you, sir?
Everything.
Everything.
I'm more of a Marvel guy, and I always have been, but I've been reading more of the New 52 recently. Haven't quite got to Trinity War yet, but everything in this set is just like, oh my god, I need to have it. Justice League Dark, very dangerous looking.
Yes.
Or like a fun theme at least.
Yep. So let's bring up a couple of the key ones that have come out since. We talked about the Superman and the Ultraman. The Ultraman kind of meh. Started bringing up some concerns with regards to rarity and strength for me for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started hitting.
I felt like that rarity, the thing that I don't want to cut you off, but the whole rarity equals strength, felt like that started to become very apparent almost in Wax.
Yes.
Where it was just like, hey, super rares equal the best characters. You pull a super rare, you're doing way better in sealed. Now, don't get me wrong. I love me some rares, I love me some uncommons, and I love me some common. But there are just the general super rare level. If you pull one of them, you're doing way better.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, there are commons that do well as a whole, but with regards to the set in its own little in the blinders,
Mm-hmm.
like War of Light was designed for sealed, and they did a better job with that because there's a lot more powerful uncommons. But
Yes.
but when you go back to Wolverine and the X-Men, I mean, yeah, Shatterstar is cool so long as you've got a ton of stuff to use with them. I pulled sealed the Wolverine and the X-Men sealed event. I couldn't even use him. He was the lowest point figure I pulled in that set. So, I mean, and anyway, where I was going with this is I've actually started to see some of the lower rarities start to kind of show themselves as more previews got made. For instance, since we last had it, we had Shazam and Freddie Freeman show up. Rares, but less than super rare.
I would like to point out, how do we get a Shazam like that when we get a Captain Thunder the set before? That's so awesome.
I'm not quite sure either, but
I'm not hating on that Shazam. I just feel like in comparison, they dropped the ball.
yeah. I think one of the things I like about this Shazam, though, is he activates himself, which is rare in a character with an activation click. And the fact that he can use it to give someone +1 to all their stats for a turn is nice for a nice second turn. Like you can have him carried in the first turn because he's got Earthbound to start, right? So you carry him up with somebody who flies and is dominable, say, just for argument's sake.
Freddie Freeman for 295 is a combo.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, I mean, there's ways he can work with regards to that first click and getting into the game, and I don't like he's lacking in Indomitable.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is
like. Oh no, I was just like I'm totally agreeing.
Sorry, fourth click.
But yes, Amber did like to mention that he does get quintessence on his third clicks, but he comes with sidestep.
The mighty Shazam dancing his way to you.
Tiptoes his way forward. But as a whole, I do like Freddie Freeman as he stands out quite a bit. He does take the prime slot, which they got to stop making so many good primes, or they got to alleviate the rule for me. It's too much.
I know they give us Dark Flash for Teen Titans, and I'm all like, yes. And then they give us Freddie Freeman. It's all like, now I have to choose.
You're making me choose? Yeah.
Why?
Don't even get me started on the Green Lanterns. All
Great
the green
idea.
versions of these characters are primes. Don't you ever think about using them together. What else has come out? Now, there's been some duds in our eyes. You and me kind of share a little bit of a meh disliking for Power Ring.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he takes damage if he doesn't move. For 70 points, it's a lot of space for a character who can potentially take damage just for doing something that isn't movement. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, other than meh?
Other than the fact that he's extremely overcosted, I don't mind his idea set. I feel like generally they make characters with good intentions, but don't actually like have decent players play against decent players.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to it, we have like the impractical debate of just like how well do they play test, and I feel like they'd be able to figure out that certain characters in their set just don't play well, like they don't work, and that they maybe should buff them or like do things like that so that their set is like. I know it's about money, but push your releases out, put more play testing, fix your sets. Because we get like a stack of erratas the first 2 weeks a set comes out, every single set.
Yep. Now, one of the things I do have to point out, though, is if you look at all the CSA guys, there is one common phrase we have to use with all of them, and it's overcosted. All the CSA guys really cost way too many points for what they're giving you on dial base, with the exception, of course, Deathstorm, who's ridiculous if you shoot at him.
So good.
Yeah. But I think that the CSA team ability is the one that WizKids really puts a lot of stock point-wise into. I mean, it's very evident. Even some of the older Justice League figures, like the first Power Ring we got back in the Justice League set, was really mediocre at best, but came with the CSA team ability, so he was okay and acceptable.
Yeah, even Owlman, back in collateral damage for 87 damage. Or 87 damage, 87 points. It's the same thing. I feel like out of all of the Crime Syndicate characters, I do like the Outsider. I think he's actually very good for what he does. 66 points?
Yep, absolutely. And he fits into a team of a bunch of characters using CSA too, because instead of throwing those tokens on and possibly losing some extra actions, he is there to take the damage instead and, just keep it coming, right? So he reduces the penalty that exists on the CSA team ability, as well as coming with the CSA team ability and wildcard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is always really nice to see, especially on a night like he's under 70 points. Like I don't understand why you would play Power Ring other than like that just Alpha Strike TK.
Yeah. Well, there's been thoughts coming from, like, I think back to the Metron metagame, where Metron, in order to use him, you had to risk taking damage as well. But of course, in that sense, Metron was 195 points of all-out offense. Like, everything he brought was just potent. He had pulse waves. He could be wherever he wanted with big phasing movement. He came with quintessence, and he had super senses across the dial, constant stats across the dial. So he came with good. Where you look at a character like Power Ring, he's got 2 clicks at 10 attack. His second and his 4th click, they have pulse wave, and he does have perplex, but then you know what? This roll is any non-free action other than a move action. So if you take that power action to TK, maybe hope to get that click, that next click where he's got the pulse wave. I mean, you're almost playing a lucky game where you might lose that click when you don't want it, right?
And that's my problem. I'm not a big fan of characters that rely on doing well based on luck.
Yeah.
More luck outside of just attack rolls.
Yes. And I've had a chance to actually test with the Super Scroll, and I sweat at the end of every turn I've chosen powers. Don't roll a 1. Don't roll a 3. Don't roll a 2.
And that's what he rolls.
Yeah. I mean, granted, if I've done the damage, I'm a little bit safer to take some of it, but there's limits to my stress. I don't want my team to stress me out as much as my opponent's team. I'd rather my opponent's team was my source of stress and not my figures, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess where I'm going with this is where Magic you can like Magic the Gathering or Versus or any other card game where a little bit of self damage is kind of an accepted cost. You don't have quite the resources in Heroclix in comparison. If you build a swarm team, you lose out on a lot of the depth of dial with them, and you can't really afford to take as many clicks, even though you are going to take clicks, right? And even with thick dials, or like you play a one-man army, then all of a sudden, unless you're playing a colossal figure, you're looking at 1/11th of your health for some kind of risky thing, right? So, let's move on to Mr. Constantine, or you guys will kill me if I don't say it right. So what do you think of Mr. Constantine?
I'm sorry, I heard somebody said something about ice cream in the back.
The peanut gallery over there.
Ice cream rhymes with teen. I think he's really good. My one problem with him, he's 90 points for somebody who can be one hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he packs a punch for what a character that basically does what the old one does, but gives everybody Justice League Dark, Stealth. He gets to choose between Outwit or Perplex and then stop an opponent from using it, potentially.
Yep.
Like, for example, you can outwit, and another power on a character.
That's right.
So it's kind of that, like, you win the roll-off there. He's got a 10 attack off start. No willpower is upsetting. Not that I feel like he's a very, like, super willful character.
He's a smoker. He's got no willpower.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually. And then 17 energy shield is kind of almost somewhat redundant, but I like it in the fact that there's so much anti-hindering terrain.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like if I ignore your hindering, you still get the +2 bonus. So
yeah. Of
course, if you ignore your hindering, then you can see me to outwit.
It's just not point maximized.
Yeah. The double prob you gotta say is great, and it doesn't have the same limitation as Pandora, where Pandora can't target the same character twice. His is just you can use it twice.
Yes.
So, I mean, I have no argument with that. If I can keep forcing my opponent to get closer to missing me.
Especially with a 19 defense from range, it's always nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So we move on now to his prime then. Nick Necro. What are your thoughts on him?
I enjoyed 0-0 of Justice League Dark, so he was kind of enjoyable for me to see that he got made into the game. As a super rare prime, I'm a little upset that that's what I'm going to have to go look for. Yeah. I feel like he's a little overcosted as well, though. He's 110 points, has a lot of really good things going for him. Just 110 points, we can do so much with that now.
Yeah, I mean, when you got characters at 110, like, you got Bullseye out there who's 110, you've got, Iron Pharaoh back in the day. You've got Proxima Midnight at 100, who's only useless if somebody spent 150 points on Mentor.
Although I do kind of like that he's almost like a mini Highfather.
Yes, yeah, he's kind of got like a mini version of Highfather, and it's specific to him, which protects him. And I was thinking when I saw this character and I first looked at it, my first thought was, I got to bring back the Swarm Team again, because he basically turns a character who would normally not be able to be touched by little swarms of guys, and then says, no, you're now going to take a lot of damage because you don't have Quintessence anymore, and I'm outwitting your defense power.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I instantly assume Quintessence when I say I can get rid of a team ability, so that's really the thought. I mean, heck, stopping Mystics is a wonderful thing too, right? So.
Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm actually just reading his defense ability again.
Oh yeah, his Uber Mystics thing. So already, if you've done damage to this character, you're going to be taking a Mystics damage, and then you come up on this click. And here's the thing that me and Amber read on the rules forum and shared with me. If he dies past that click was still revealed, which means your opponent is still stuck taking a choice of either eating 3 unavoidable damage or healing Nick Necro, and
back to click 5.
Yeah. and then what was it? Or
and then
heal
he
him
can
and
regen.
remove the relic or resource.
Oh my Brigitus.
Oh, sorry. The resource attachment. That's true. It's got to be a relic or a resource attachment assigned to them. So that would be like a construct or a hammer. This wouldn't work against a gauntlet, which isn't an issue in the modern metagame, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what one of the resources coming out in the new set might be specific targeting one figure. So we got to kind of account for that idea.
But you know what? I really like that defensibility. Do I feel like it's going to show up in the meta? Unfortunately, actually, not so much. Unfortunately, I don't think so.
No.
I don't feel like he does enough elsewhere for 111 points. But I feel like that's actually like a really, really good defense power.
Honestly, I think this is the only time I'm ever going to turn around and say this prime is slightly overcosted along with you. Because primes are generally undercosted. There's always seemed to be that character, that figure that they get away with in regards to design. It's like, we did this, we made this character a little too strong. Fine, make it a prime. They can only use one.
Well, look at the escalation. We need a really strong brick. We give you Hyperion Prime.
Yeah.
A set, what is it? 2 sets later, we give you Mon-El Prime, 100 points cheaper, just add a belt.
Yep.
And now we have Freddie Freeman.
Yeah. So.
Are we going to have a 70-point brick in the next set? But he's a prime.
So you only get one. And for 79 points, you get to go across the table and take one of your characters. Can't forget that prime. He's still making noise, that Brother Voodoo, I tell you what.
Yep.
All right, let's finish off here. We got Zatanna. I know you and me have talked about him at length in our own little room, but we haven't shared with the peoples. Your thoughts on Zatanna?
I think she's awesome. What is it? I get to choose at the start of the game whether she's going to be an awesome support character for my team or she's going to be second string attacker.
Yep.
And then, obviously, the other one later in the game.
Yeah.
But what? I'm going to push her. I'm going to push her instantly because I want that 11 attack, sidestep, 16 defense, defend for what? A 5 roll for support?
Yep.
I'm about it, especially when we already know Constantine's giving everybody stealth.
Yep.
I'm all about it. And I can prob it twice?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So it's just like, I'm good. I'm really in love with this character.
I find it awkward saying it like this, especially the way she's dressed, but she takes it both ways. You know, she's a good support character to start who becomes an awesome attacker, or she's an awesome attacker that's great for late game support. So you can't complain either way. It's just a matter of when you think you're going to need it. Because this is going to be one of those things where you can turn around and react to what looks like an Alpha Strike coming at you, so you can be there with early game support to get back in the game. Or if you see that the game is going to be a longer game, you're going to be a little bit more drawn out, you start as an attacker to deal early damage, and then as things get dicey, and she's taking a little bit of damage, but also dealt because of Mystics, she's back in the game, or she's bringing your characters back in the game and punishing your opponent for having done any damage to you, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
And Frankenstein is a brick, but he's cute. I found him to be a bit of a cute brick, to say the least.
Yeah, I think for just under 100 points, he's fun.
Yeah.
And I like that you can stop somebody from healing, but I feel like that's very team specific.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
but that could really hurt. Like, you hit a character that has a nurse.
Yeah. Yeah, they can't regenerate. We can't regenerate now.
Yeah.
Frankenstein is bringing back the Sabretooth, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, 2 got previewed today, the day we're filming now, for those of you who are watching the archive. Let's start with the one that we both seem to... Well, I mean, let's talk about Mazahush. Shazam backwards.
Mazahs,
Yeah.
I think.
So he's definitely, in the 300-point game, he's pretty much your tentpole. You might bring him with a Harley and maybe a Despotellis to carry around, but that's about it. Does that math work out? That math work?
That math
No,
works.
I'm 5 points over.
No, but you
50
can't. You
point
do.
Harley.
Yeah, 50-point Harley.
Yeah, so I mean, he can bring a couple friends, and he's Mystics, which means you're punished for dealing damage to your brick house. Second click probability control, which is always awesome. Each opposing character must choose a power it possesses all. Oh yeah, okay. Now his pulse wave is a scary thing. His pulse wave reads, he can use pulse wave. When he does, after action is resolved, each opposing character hit by the attack must choose a power it possesses. All other powers on these characters are countered until your next turn. Now, unless you're Quintessence, you're about to get punished by a pulse wave pretty bad.
Very hard.
Yeah. So it leaves you with that unfortunate choice of what am I going to let myself keep and what am I going to give up for this. So, and what was his trait? His trait. When he KOs an opposing character, choose a standard power that character possessed. Now he can use it.
For the rest of the game.
Yes, exactly. So
all I thought when I read that was, welcome to the Orange Lantern Corps, because your powers are mine.
Yeah. Yeah, he's almost more Orange Lantern than most of the Orange Lanterns.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Oh, I do like this guy a lot, and really excited to see how he plays out. And that's coming from a guy who hates tent pulling, so that's saying something.
My only problem with him is at 210 points, after he takes, say, like if you hit him for 5, you know what? If he takes, he's kind of bruisey. I just feel like the way he's gonna be hit in between his prop clicks, and then the 17 defense on that invulnerability, and his mid dial's not great. I would like to have seen him at like 190 points. Like that 20 points difference would have made like real something for me. But I do like him. I think he's very interesting, and with an entity, could really unleash some damage, like a huge amount of damage.
Now, the real Lex Luthor, please stand up. We got another Lex Luthor in Power Armor. Now, I want to point out as well, when we put this up on our Facebook page, George Massey showed that he was very excited for a new Shazam and Lex Luthor. Apparently, he likes them. I don't know. But let's get into this. Trace. When he begins the game with a Subterfuge token on this card. When he has a Subterfuge token on this card, opponents can only target him if they began the turn adjacent to him. When he targets an opposing character with an attack, remove all Subterfuge tokens from this card. And yeah, so when he attacks, he's kind of just showing his true colors kind of idea. And then he gets it back on his second last click of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 click dial. So if he takes 5 clicks, he gets it back. If he takes 6 clicks, he gets it back, and he's still alive. 7 clicks, it's gone. And then he's got a leadership ability. He can use leadership and outwit. And when he uses leadership and succeeds, he can instead remove an action token from a friendly character with the Injustice League keyword within 3 squares and regardless of point value. Now, was the token Bizarro in Justice League, or is he just Secret Society of Supervillains? I never remember that.
I'm sorry, which one?
The Bizarro that plays with the tokens, the unique one.
Has what keyword?
I got it right here. It does. He has Legion of Doom. Never mind. Okay. I'm talking out of my butt. I think I'm thinking of the Fast Forces one, maybe?
Maybe. Give me a second.
Check. The Fast Forces one. He has Injustice League, Legion of Doom, and Brute. So, but he does have a 75-point version, which is pretty awesome, which is, usable with that as well. But yeah, thoughts on Luthor?
I feel like his trade is a really unhealthy idea for this game. I feel like it's almost like the opposite in bad intentions when it comes to Bill. Like, Bill's like, positioning doesn't matter because I shoot through everything, and this is more like, dance around me because you can't shoot me.
Yeah, he's gonna be a little tricky to catch up with and to get a hold of. The fact that he starts with that token is a little obnoxious, and the fact that he is going to get the first strike because he's got things like running shot and pulse wave and 4 damage, and I think he's got 11 movement with flight, I believe it was.
Yes.
But he is a pretty ruthless character to give that trait to, for one.
I don't feel like he's going to be the end of the world because he's like really expensive and this, that, the other. It's just one of those like characters that it's like that trait, just the trait, not the character on its own, is the escalation to an idea of like bad ideas or like to the group of bad ideas. Like Bill's just unhealthy. That trait generally unhealthy, and I'm very glad it's not on a character that we will ever see in the meta, hopefully.
Yeah, and sometimes it's when a character like this does exist, it's okay that one exists and he can exist for the fact that he's existing. But if something that does get like super playable ends up with something to this effect, we could start to see some issues. And at 200 points, I'm not going to completely discount him in the metagame, especially in the no tactics metagame, because getting the first shot in that one is way more important even than the resource one, because there's a lot more tricks you can pull off with things like power plants being able to heal, etc. Right?
Yes.
With this character in the no tactics format is going to cause a lot of headaches, even though he is one of those 2/3 of your team put into this character. But I also can't seem to pull out a win even against the newest of the new people with Kyle Rayner. So stylistically, Kyle Rayner doesn't work for me. Because stylistically, this guy's not going to work for me, I don't think, either. So.
No, I don't think like he's going to work for me. 200 points and
but,
like I like 10 pulls, but more with resources than anything else.
Yeah. And that brings us to the end of the new previews. Overall, I think Trinity War is getting, because we've seen all of this, we know what's going on, and all of it, not a lot of it is disappointing, to be brutally honest. I mean, there's a couple characters that were kind of mad, but for the most part, there's a lot of really cool mechanics, really neat characters. There's characters like Blue Devil who've already caused me confusion, and I've been corrected on. Thank goodness for the speed of the event system team there. And there's mad characters like Vandal Savage. He's going to be one of those games. Vandal Savage is going to find his way into a team that I play that's going to be a fun game. That's probably an Injustice Society game for 800 points. But you're not going to see me bring him into a tournament that's like 300 point, for a prize.
I hope we get more Demon Knights.
It would be nice to see more because we had Etrigan in the last set. And we have him now. So we'll see what they pull out for us. That's one of those books from DC I do have to read myself as well. Now, I want to pull it over. You and me were already talking about it before the show. But there was an ROC at Highland Heights, Kentucky this weekend. And we'll work our way. There's a lot of teams here. Hold on a second. I'm going to start with, let's do top 4 because we just kind of limit our time and whatnot. So, hey, look at that. Top 4. Somebody has finally dispelled the myth in my mind. Casey Flash, Turtle, Despotellus, Bat Cycle, 300 points. I guess I can stop calling it a myth team. Honestly, we've all been talking about it since the get-go. Is this team going to do something? Is this team going to be as damaging as everybody says? And we hadn't seen it yet, and now we've seen it in the top 4. This is I want to say this is gonna the top 4 of this is a brutal mix and mash of just ruthlessness.
Yes, very ruthless.
This is competitive play. So I think we've talked at length about the Kyle Rayner Turtle combo. Let's move on to the next team, which was Captain Marvel at 82 points, Harley Quinn at 65. It's listed here as 64, but I think that's a typo. Despotellus and okay, my computer went crazy for a second. Despotellus, Banshee, and a a lot of Bat Cycles showing up. I want to point out. So what do you think of this one?
I think it's very effective for what it does.
Yeah.
I was thinking of a team actually very similar to it, except I think I mentioned to you before the show. It was Con Question, Banshee, Despotellus, Weasel, and Bat Cycle. So I had replaced Harley Quinn and Captain Marvel with a Question and a Weasel. I still have a few points to work around, but I love the the whole Bat Cycle, Despotellis, Banshee thing. Like that's just an awesome combo.
Now, I've had a lot of people asking me for my bat cycles and whatnot. I do have to find out what that thing does because I did manage to unload one recently. So what does the bat cycle actually do? So that I don't surprise.
Drop a
Well,
smoke
it's
cloud for
smoke
free
cloud
after
thing.
a move action.
Yeah. But the first hindering terrain marker must be placed in a square moved through by bat cycle this turn. Okay. That's actually really cool because he's already got the 2 passengers, which is increased by 1 because of Despotellis being tiny. So he's going to be able to carry, in this guy's team, it was probably would be Captain Marvel and Banshee. Harley Quinn can move of her own accord. She's really good at that. And to carry the Despotellis as well. So you get the 2 main attackers out there. Harley Quinn comes and plays catch-up with her sidestep on the first turn and decent enough movement as well. Puddin's probably Banshee because he's the biggest dealer on the team. And then Captain Marvel, of course, to stop any kind of real retaliation. His attack power is nuts. So I'm seeing him a lot in a lot of these ROC teams. Rock teams, I guess we can start calling them because I've been told many times to call them rocks.
It's the Rock!
It's the Rock! So, now, I can see why both these teams didn't make it against the teams that were on the top. Now, Team 2 we had a discussion about, and you had an epiphany after I had mentioned something.
Oh, yeah.
So
I love it. Hope Summers.
yes. He got really excited that it was Hope Summers, and then I had to excite him again because it's really, really disgusting what can be done with this team. So this is Howard Brock. For those of you who saw my episode when I talked to him about the ROC or the Rock tournaments, he's one of the head guys on top of the Rock. He tops the Rock. Can't stop the Rock. I'm done now. I'm sorry.
Welcome to the Rock.
So his team was Turtle.
Best figure NA.
Highfather, Hope Summers, Blind Owl. Now, if you don't see right off the bat what this team does, I don't want to explain it because I don't want anybody to know about it. I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to give anybody the tools to play it. If anybody asks me for Tachyon, I don't have a Tachyon. If you...
I won't play it if you won't play it.
I refuse to play it.
Can we all make a rule as a team, like as like a community, like nobody plays this team or you get shunned? Like Howard Brock, you're okay because you played it the first time, but now that we all see what you did there, I see what you did there. I think we should all just be like, okay, you did very well, but we can't let that happen again.
Good play.
Good play.
Bad.
Very good.
All right. Should I share it? Explain what it does?
I mean, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So Moira McTaggart's obviously there for support. Let's just get her use out of there. Blind Owl, of course, is one of those characters that she's got that power. You can give her a power action, take a character in your starting area, deal damage, move them out of your starting area. Now, what you can do from there is use Blind Owl to activate Hope to her second click. Now turn Hope next to Turtle. Now Turtle is going to do, you're going to have 2 turtles on the board, which you shouldn't have because they're unique, but that's neither here nor there. Now Highfather will move, take 2 actions, ignore his willpower, take a damage, and then take another damage because there's 2 turtles on the board. Move back to the starting area. Next turn, doesn't matter, push Blind Owl, deal a damage to Highfather. Now Highfather's on a click that can turn him into Tachyon, right? But you've got to do a power action in order to do that. So you got to wait a turn for this. But in the meantime, you've got you got Hope copying Turtle, which means Turtle's effect goes off twice. So if your opponent tries to move much further than 4 squares, you are going to take damage for it, regardless. And that's going to hurt because even if you're Indomitable, you're going to take the 2 tokens, and then because you're adding the extra token from the ability, you have to take the extra damage because Turtle's ability is triggering twice. Now, so it's punishing you for coming forward, and then he's punishing his own Highfather to do something that's incredibly twisted. Now, if he's been intelligent about it, Highfather is currently next to Hope Summers. Now Hope Summers copies Tachyon. Highfather is clear. You give Hope Summers an action. Highfather. I'm giving it away already. Hope Summers takes a power action. She's now Tachyon. Highfather takes an action. He's now Tachyon. Moira McTaggart heals the much weaker Tachyon from the Highfather transformation, but Hope Summers is only on her second click, so she's a click 2 Tachyon who's already pretty powerful, who carries Turtle around to start doing some damage with Pulse Waves, because the Pulse Waves happen during the Hypersonic, which means it's not going to affect Turtle. And there's another Tachyon behind you somewhere.
Yep. And let's just point out, Tachyon's 175 points, I believe.
Tachyon is 175 points. What that means is...
2 Tachyons is 350 points. I don't think we need to explain the rest of the math there, but you're getting a lot for 130 points.
You're getting a lot of extra gumption out of this team. And Moira McTaggart makes the heal incredibly easy
And potent.
And potent on the much weaker Tachyon. While
It's a 5, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so, because she has an 11 attack when she uses support.
Yes, that's exactly it. And I believe the Tachyon in Click 4 has 16 defense.
16 defense. So the pact has stopped your big guy from attacking. The 2 turtles have stopped you from getting to him fast enough without punishment for it. It is a ruthless combination of tricks to get 2 Tachyons on the board that also stop you from getting across the board to him. Now the team that
to stop that strategy, like 2 turtles stop you from a counter strategy to beat that. That's just like...
Yeah. Now, we say 2 turtles because Hope is copying Turtle, and Turtle just does his thing, and Hope being there to do the thing as well is what it is. You know what I mean? And the team that managed to beat this, Mr. Tim Bold, whose name I've seen a couple times in major tournaments, his team was Banshee, Brother Voodoo, Maximus, Loki, and Blind Owl. Now, in order to beat the team that we just described, I have a feeling Brother Voodoo played a major part in it, because his team is going to do as good a job against his team as it can. You know what I mean? So you use a Tachyon to kill a Moira McTaggart so that his healing's gone. Then you can start picking away at the other guy. But, of course, the getting there is the big issue, right? It doesn't happen naturally.
I also feel like he must have gone first.
That's an important element in it, obviously, too, because... Maximus needs to get those what are they called? Alpha primitives out quick.
Yes, but also going first allows you to move before the double turtle.
That's right. Yes, you need to get out there before turtle time.
As far as you can before double turtle, so that you can safely make your moves.
Yeah, because that's another important thing about that other team is, if they get the advantage, they get the first turn advantage, it's one of the few teams where it doesn't look and go, I don't know if I want to go first. They want to go first, so that turtle activation happens, and you are stuck dealing with the inability to move and the punishment for damage of doing it. Now,
but do you know what I want to start playing just to make sure that team never comes out?
What's that?
Gates.
Yes. Because I don't care if Gates takes damage.
I think I'm going to start playing Gates simply so that we can knock out turtles in general. If you can knock out Turtle, you knock out that team. You knock out KC Flash being be-all, end-all, because I just start playing plasticity. Yeah. Like, everyone, I just discovered it right now, that's what we're doing.
Gates. And his wild card.
Yeah.
So
60 points carries your team. Come on, guys. Gates is the new way. I've seen him in a couple ROC teams. Everybody do it.
So... now, one of the things I've noticed about this year's Rock tournaments, this metagame evolves, changes, switches, flip-flops with every tournament. I've seen tournaments where Kyle Rayner has shown up 4 times in the top 8. I've seen tournaments where Kyle Rayner can't make it to the top 8. I've seen tournaments where Proxima Midnight dominates the top 8. And then the next tournament I saw, Mentor showed up for the tournament and Proxima was nowhere to be found. Only 4 Proxima Midnight showed up at Majestics, whereas like 6 or 7 Super Scrolls showed up, and the Super Scroll is a chase. So one of those things I think is kind of where that stands is Super Scroll being a chase is going to be less common in some local metagames. And this is showing off how every area is going to play the game differently. And it makes it damn near impossible to like even predict what I'm going to see at the Windsor ROC or the Windsor Rock or our Rock Windsor pre-tournament for the Winamap tournament. I have no idea what I'm going to see there.
Hint, I have a feeling it's going to be like powerhousey.
I agree with you because our
That's just
local
what that's just what our local meta is. Like I feel like 10 poles are people's fancy.
I feel
People like strong guys.
yeah, and I do feel in our local metagame, I'm that one guy that kind of I feel like I'm the only guy who's comfortable playing a swarm and uncomfortably comfortable playing a swarm to the point where I've actually had to make myself uncomfortable and dial back how many characters I've had on my team of late because there's so much energy explosion and pulse wave out on the game right now that it's almost not worth it in some cases. So I've been kind of reverting back to an older style of play I used to do way back in the day. And we've talked about it before, but it's a little bit more brawlery, like get my brawlers forward and then explode on my opponent. And of course, I can't seem to put down Thane, and Amber has not let me play against her with Thane since we filmed the game that we... Did we lose that game? Like, lost the footage of that game?
I remember.
I think we lost the footage of that game, and Thane was just so strong.
Yeah, a buddy of mine won't let me play Flash Question anymore.
Yeah. I've actually had to ban myself from the Trinity of Sin because it's going to get me in trouble because I'm going to want to play it, and there's elements to it that I don't think are good enough. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I almost want to. We'll talk about this one later.
I think Conquestion is a huge splash in the ROC meta, simply because Perplex is a must almost.
Yeah, because you don't have the resources to up the stats, which a lot of people rely on with regards to stat boosting. Perplex is more prevalent, and if you force Perplex to become a power action with the Conquestion, people they have to think more about how they're going to use.
Hello?
Now, obviously, he's going to choose power action. That's pretty elementary, right? But it can still happen. So, and yeah, so that's metagame is evolving. I like it. It's nerve-wracking because you can't predict. It makes it really hard to predict unless you really know your local metagame. So that's I think that's something I've got to talk about in an episode of Meta Lab or Metafix soon. Know your local.
Yes, know your locals.
Now I want to dial away from the game itself for a little, for this last little bit of the show, and then I'm going to see if we got any questions on the Facebook. On the Facebook. Remember when it used to be called that?
The Facebook.
Yeah. Now, HC Realms a little while ago, for those of you who didn't hear or anything, they announced that they are actually sponsoring 3 teams. Now, details of the sponsorship are a little vague, but for the most part, the idea is that these 3 teams are going to get a little bit of traveling funds in exchange for the use of their brains, if you will, to write some articles for HC Realms. Now, this has been met with, how do I call this, mixed reviews. Some people are misinformed as to where the money is coming from. Some people think it's coming from donations on HC Realms. Some people think it's coming from, and a lot of people think that's where it's coming from. Now I know Typhon, the guy in the back end of HC Realms. He has stated that in fact the money is coming from advertising. So let's start with that. The money is coming from advertising, which is not your donation money. In fact, your donation money goes towards not being able to see the ads, which means you're telling them that you're not sponsoring the team with donations. I think I said this with Patricia the other day too. As well, when they say a sponsorship, this is more or less, I think it's more or less careful wording. In this case, they're actually getting paid to write articles, but HC Realms wants to tell them what to do with their money. You know what I mean? If I go to work, I do my job, and they pay me, they don't tell me what I'm going to do with my money. They just think I'm going to go do proper life things with it, right? Where in this case, by calling it a sponsorship, you get to tell these guys, go to these events, and that's how you're going to spend our money and represent HC Realms to the best of your ability as well. So this is also going to affect their behavior. You've
Now,
heard my thoughts.
I would like to point out in that circumstance, because it is a little bit different than a job. And when I was sponsored for Halo, when I got money paid for like a job, that was like you went to the event, that was a job, the hours paid, I got paid for that by the sponsor for advertisement. But the money like for travel was to get me to the event to advertise.
Yep.
So they weren't going to sponsor me if it wasn't for that advertisement, and I feel like that part of the whole mixture there, rather than like you spend the money this way. I just feel like rather than buying them a plane ticket to the events they want them to go to, they're giving them money and telling them what to spend it on, which is, I feel like, the miscommunication and possibly that contract. I was not there, so I do not actually know, but I feel like that could be part of it.
Yeah. And now let's talk about the members of the team, if I can find it anywhere. Oh, wow. HC Realms, when they move fast, man, you all of a sudden lose track of all their articles. So I have to go into that little den that I make fun of often called the forums to go to the news articles and original content, and we find... Do we? Oh no. Okay. Here we go. Sponsor 3 Heroclix teams. So, if this would load up fast. There we go. 3 teams are the Team Illuminati, Apex Predators, and the 4 Points Gaming Club. Now, the members of the Illuminati are Jake Williams, who is, of course, the Golden Age World winner, top 4 at Dragon Con last year, top 16 at Worlds last year as well. He's a consistent high-level player. Joining him is Jonathan Rendon, who we tried to get on a show a little while back. He is a winner of one of the WizKids Opens, WKOs, the sealed events. And then we have Adam Freeman, who is a national champion, the U.S. national champion from last year. Very clever, intelligent man. We had him on the show once, and he had a lot to say, and it was really, really good information. And they also have an alternate player named Jamie McNeil. The Apex Predators, you'll know these names. Patrick Yaboko. Oh, hey, I said it right this time. I got corrected on that like a week ago, by the way. Kevin Ofruz and Justin Jimenez with their alternative, Chris Flores. 4 Points Gaming Club, Scott Crampton, who's not quite as well known, but if you pay attention to the names in the top 8, like myself or a player like Jordan does, his name shows up a lot, along with his teammates Ed Arnold Berkovitz and Matt Esbrook. So these are a group of high-end players, very accomplished, very good at the game, and they're also very active HC Realms. Jordan, thoughts? Share with the people as well as you can.
On what I think about the articles?
Beyond the articles, like in general, I mean, the sponsorship doesn't bother you at all or anything like that. And you were a Halo sponsor, or you were sponsored to play Halo, so
I feel like it grows the community. I feel like what people don't realize is these are the kind of things that when people start to get sponsored because advertisement becomes worth it, our community grows.
Yeah.
As long as the community itself doesn't viciously tear it down, it only grows. And I feel like this community generally is very helpful. I feel like there are tons of players that come into our community that just start for the first time, and people are like, "Here are clicks. Just I don't take them. Like, you want them? Okay, take.
Yeah.
Because eventually they'll be like, everyone, take my extra clicks.
Yeah, it's a trickle down. Heck, when I got back into the game after my short little lull from collecting, my buddies Ryan, Joel, and Chris they were so generous about giving stuff back to us to get back into the game. And I think it slowed down when I started beating them again.
They're like, whoa, he's got all the stuff he needs.
He's fine. Why did we give him that Ares, guys? Why did we give him Ares? I don't know. Whose idea was that?
Ares.
Yeah, but that said, I accept this as at face value. It's a really good thing for not only these players but for all of us in the community, because these guys are now going to start sharing information with regards to what they use in strategies of the game. As well, their ability or their willingness to share the strategies and share their ideas and share their take on things helps make all the other players a lot better. Like myself, when I'm trying to make the meta fix, I'm trying to help everybody get into their mind of thinking, and then they're going to share a little bit more information that you can use when I say, this is how you think, now open your mind to this, and take advantage of what they have. I mean, even Jake's article already has already put up an article with regards to probability of dice rolls and controlling your dice rolls and where you put your perplexes in regards to making attack rolls and stuff like that. It's really lengthy. It's a good read, and it's already gotten me it's already brought me back to a point where I was just before recently in the game, where how I would use my perplexes and my range combat experts and stuff like that. Now,
I really liked Adam's article about who watches the watch list.
Yes, he actually had some really good ideas with regards to the watch list and how it worked, and I don't know if WizKids got it in time or if decisions were already made by the time that article had come out. I have no issues with most of the changes to the watch list. I think some of it was with regards to the end is a little rough. I think if they would have made entity a generic keyword, it could have had almost the same effect as what they did with regards to just giving them the named keyword that comes with the entity. I'll accept what they did and play with it. And because I'm not a game designer for WizKids games, I don't have that much of a say.
By the way, you could always hire me, WizKids. If you're looking, we'll play test.
Yeah. You definitely will play test.
I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah. But as a whole, good voices from the community, and they're also really good representatives of HC Realms. So I mean, I'm not gonna fault them on their choice of players. I'm not gonna fault them on the fact that they're doing this. And I hope next year, when if 1 year my name ends up on the banner as world champ, if it ever happens, or national champ even, that I do get considered for it. But yeah, sponsorships aren't new in this community, guys. We've been sponsored by Majestics for about almost a year, half a year now at least. Whenever Patrick won Worlds is about when we started getting sponsored. They've been backing us with some product here and there, as well as regular thoughts and suggestions for the show. So it's actually ramped up this year, and hopefully we're going to get an unboxing video for you guys very shortly, courtesy of them. So, overall, a good thing. It was probably, I'm not going to lie, a lot of people are quick to react when they have the internet and the information speed, and a lot of people need to take a step back and think, okay, is my reaction for this as necessary as I think it needs to be? Or, just how is this not helping me, or how is this affecting me in any way? Right? And one of the things that I did see is somebody wrote thinking that this was with regards to sending people to local events, like my regular store event, and they're going to come and play. That's not really the intention here. Your local store, they're not going to come and bully you to beat on you and beat on me at Comic Warehouse. They're gonna come to Canadian Nationals maybe if they get a decent enough travel budget.
That is for us Canadians.
Hey, you know what? We've already been beaten by an American in our nationals, so...
We did.
Yeah.
I fully admitted.
We just gotta grind our heels and be like, no! Maybe put some maple syrup in their pants when they're not looking.
But Patrick didn't win ours, so at least we can be like, you didn't win everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's all we have for the show this week. No questions got asked. Guys, feel free to use the Facebook, use our email to ask questions for next week's episode. It's going to be every Monday now at 9 p.m. On the Metal Lab. So we want to hear your thoughts, want to hear your questions. Keep an eye open during the week. Let us know what you want to know and what you want to hear our opinions on. Jordan, anything you want to add on the way out?
I'm good.
He's good. All right. And remember, guys, practice makes your team better.